Chinese, we say, "Xing xing song song, kwai kwai lo le le." Right? And what that means is relax and be happy. You ready? A, B, C, D.
Hey, I'm John Chen. I'm the CEO with GeoTeamy, and I'm here with the founder and the CEO of Integrate.
That's right.
Jimbo Clark. Jimbo Clark, how are you doing?
Honestly speaking, I'm a little bit tired. I've been traveling a lot. Just came back from the Philippines, Hong Kong, a couple other countries. So going to San Francisco tomorrow. But I've had a great year. Had a fantastic year.
It's a rough life, so somebody has to do it.
I know. But you know, I can't even say it's a rough life because honestly speaking, I'm living my dream. There are probably 3 to 4 times a month where I say to myself, I can't believe I'm getting paid to do this. I can't believe that I'm able to do the things that I'm doing work-wise, but also doing the things I'm able to do family-wise. So I have no complaints.
Well, you know, the fantastic part is I met this guy, Jimbo, at NASAGA, the North American Simulation and Gaming Association, to get all that. And we've actually known each other for a while, but if you had to describe Integrate to somebody who didn't know anything about you, what would you tell them?
Integrate stands for Innovate to Greatness. And basically, we work on innovation in the decision-making process. So how do we get more innovative solutions? How do you get cross-cultural, cross-functional, cross-geographic creativity that drives change? And we like to do that in a fun way too, because I think a part of innovation is letting go of our current boundaries and thinking outside of that.
Well, and of course, I kind of forgot to mention that we're here in Jimbo Town, which actually is a section of town I affectionately named here in Taipei, Taiwan. And so, you know, Jim here has really done a lot of work in this Asian region, Hong Kong, the Philippines, lots of other different places. So, you know, a really good part is, what did you do before this? And then how did you make the transition to Integrate?
Before this, I worked for a company called Learning Technologies. It's an American company. They're the largest licensee of Disney materials. They have a program called Disney's World of English. So they use Disney videos to teach English. I worked with them for 13 years in both the children's side and kind of an adult side. So it was a lot of it was about activity-based learning. And then they had a very large sales organization with a lot of training. And so I decided that I wanted to get into training, and I talked to my boss. I said, I want to become a world-class facilitator trainer. I can do that in-house or I can do that out-of-house. He said, give me a year to readjust your responsibilities and don't expect a pay raise. so he did both of those. And so in about 2000, I took over learning and development. We implemented Six Sigma in the company. I left in 2005, started Integrate in 2006. And yeah, so a lot of what I was doing in that pre-Integrate era was, you know, activity-based learning, finding accelerated learning. I got certified in a number of different accelerated learning processes because I found that, you know, for adults to learn in particular, they need to overcome their own boundaries and their own barriers to learning. And nobody, when you learn something new, you got to be willing to fail. You got to be willing to put yourself out in the line. So how can you embed learning in the activities, and how can you extract it and apply it?
So with Integrate, what did you want to do that was different or more you, right, than what you were doing in your previous company? And I actually didn't know that you worked for the mouse. That's really cool. But anyways, what did you do that was super important to you that had to be an Integrate?
Well, I think when I explain what we do in terms of the processes that we use, one way of looking at it is it's a little bit like if you want to have a team building, why wouldn't you want to have a team building that's really built around improving the business? Or if you want to do a business meeting, why wouldn't you want to have a business meeting that feels like a team building? And so we to a certain degree, we tend to play in that middle space where in general, there's almost always a very clear practical outcome. And so we're driving that practical outcome, whatever that might be, whether it's a strategic plan or leadership development. But then we're doing it in the experiential outcomes are also important to us. And so I think we're able to consistently deliver both, like real business results, real facilitated dialogue, real strategic plans. But the process is invigorating. It's exciting. People get to know each other. I just had a program last week where I kept getting text messages from the participants saying this was the best program I've ever been into. Yeah, because they felt like it was really, really useful, and everything led to a decision, but the whole process was fun, engaging. Yeah, so I think that's what's important to me. I want to have fun, and so I'll tell you a story. When I was so I grew up in a very conservative Christian family, and my dad saw me getting in trouble at Sunday school once, and he's walking through the church and he sees the teacher talking to me and getting mad at me, and so he asked the teacher later, so what's wrong? What happened to Jimmy? And she said, "Oh yeah, he was just being such a pill today. He kept, making all these jokes and interrupting, and then I asked him why, and he said, "Well, there's 2 new kids here. If they don't start having fun, they won't come back, and I didn't want them to go to hell." And so I thought, someone's gotta save these kids' souls. And so I think since then I've tried really, really hard to integrate, the energy of laughter and fun into, the painful work of business. And sometimes it is. And I guess one other thing I'd say is, like, when people ask me what's my vision or what's my mission, I think it's to reduce the level of suffering in the organization. I think organizations are full of suffering. They're full of pressure. They're full of trade-offs that people aren't really happy with. And I would like to reduce that level of suffer and help people, live a life that's a little bit better.
So they enjoy their work, Well, I'm going to call a little bit of the white elephant in the room, which is like, I've been doing team building a long time. And there are some people who are so stuck on the fun aspect that they don't ever want to seem to do the work aspect in quote unquote team building, right? Have you ever seen that, and how do you deal with it?
Well, I think in Asia, there's a lot of people call corporate events team building. And so because of my personality and because of my energy, people will come and ask me to do team building. And for me, if there's no practical outcome, if you really just want to have fun, there's really no reason to use me. And there are a lot of other vendors here that really are fun oriented. And I would prefer to spend my time working towards something important. And we can use an activity, we can use a game, we can do a lot of things that rolls into that. But if it's just a corporate event and you're just out there having fun, I don't enjoy that as much. Yeah.
So it's really cool. Later on, you're going to have to click on the next video here where you'll see Jimbo actually facilitate what kind of was supposed to be a fun event and really tied it into the supplier relationship. So that's like a precursor teaser for that. But let's talk about, so you've gotten to innovate a lot of products in your time. And one of them, I think the one you're most proud about is your box program. Can you just talk a little bit about the box program, what it is, and of course, how did it come to be?
Yeah. Well, it started in, I think 2008, 2009. I had a client, and the client asked me, "Can you do a training on thinking thinking out of the box?" And like every good consultant, I said, "Sure." And then I went back home, and I was thinking, what am I going to do? And I saw an empty A4 box on the floor, and I picked it up, and I said, what is the box that we're supposed to think out of? So I put the box on my head and took it off. I said, in the box thinking, out of the box thinking. And then I was like, I will put boxes upon their heads and it will be marvelous. And actually it was better than I expected. I thought it'd be like an hour kind of a aha moment piece. It ended up taking 3 hours. Wow. And the pictures were great. The feedback was great. So I started putting it into programs. And since then I've done about, I think 5,000 people now. Have 20 trainers around the world. So I've put boxes, on and off about 5,000 people's heads. And every time I learn something about, what holds us back. And a couple of the big gifts of this has been, one is realizing the box is not bad. The box represents the boundaries of our thinking, and they're there to keep us safe. They're here to help us succeed. They're help us to understand. And the reason we say think out of the box so much is because the rest of our life is basically people teaching you how to think in it. And we need that reminder. And so we really focus not on thinking out of the box, but thinking, out and back into a better box. And so how do we create better boundaries? How do we create, boundaries of my thinking that are aligned to my vision of the future. And so that's really fun when you know, when you get that aha moment. And for a lot of people, it's when they take the box off their head and there's, you know, you go 3, 2, 1, the box all comes off and you hear this, you know, and it's like, it feels so good to get out of the box. But then as we talk about, well, why don't we do this more? And, well, because the box keeps me safe. It protects me. I can't be totally transparent. I can't say everything I think. As we're, I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not even gonna go there. I'm not even gonna go there.
Bait.
I will not say his name, right? But no. So we can't do that, and so we need boundaries, and we need goals, and we need you know, strategies, and all those are we hold in our thinking and preferences. So why not just change them to be more aligned to your vision of the future? And a great example of that is my whiskey diet.
What?
So
What?
so I wanted to lose weight, but I like to drink beer and I don't like to go to the gym. And I was complaining, you know, and I've been thinking this for years. And then my wife and I were talking and she says, well, you know, instead of drinking beer, why don't you just drink whiskey? She has less calories. And I found out that actually it's also less refreshing. So beer is a refreshing drink that I'll drink 3 or 4, whereas a whiskey is something that I might just sip now and again. You know, so it's more of a relaxation. And I find I eat differently, I snack differently. And then for the exercise part, she's like, why don't you just take the dog for walks and just get yourself moving? And so pretty much whiskey dog diet. Sounds kind of sick, but yeah, you know, drinking whiskey instead of beer and getting a little bit more active. And I lost 14 pounds in about 6 months without really, you know, suffering.
I can't wait till you get on a Taipei TV with like the whiskey whiskey dog diet. Well, anyways, thanks for telling us a little bit about the box and how it came to be. You have, of course, this other amazing project that I finally got to be a participant, known as Brains on the Beach. Why don't you talk about Brains on the Beach and share a little bit about what happened in this last Brains on the Beach that that was like one of your highlights?
So Brains on the Beach started about 7 or 8 years ago with 2 colleagues of mine. And we were discussing how once you get to a certain level in terms of facilitating training, then where do you go to really develop yourself? And you can go to a conference like NASAGA, which was a great conference, but we always think that's a little bit more like going to a wedding. You know, it's like, hey, hi, oh yeah, I'd love to meet up with you sometime. Let's do something, you know. And then when it's over, it's over. And you can take a training, and maybe you use it or maybe you don't. But we realize we learn the most when we're working with colleagues on a project that's real. And so the first Brains on the Beach, when we call it Brains on the Beach because your brain, I mean, when you go to the beach, you behave differently. And we really want our brains to behave differently. And so we use the metaphor of the beach. And the first one was in Hong Kong with the Peninsula Hotel. So we had a client, the Peninsula Hotel. They gave us a real issue. We brought in 16 consultants, broke them up into 4 different teams, and we had a competition to find out which team could give the best advice to the client.
This is like way pre-reality TV, right?
Yeah. So in fact, we even filmed it and tried to sell it as a reality TV show. But the problem was these were all our friends. And to make a reality TV show, you really have to up the emotional content and get people angry. And we did that. And we almost lost, we broke up a couple friendships in the process. And we decided, instead of making it, you know, kind of competitive and upping the emotional content in terms of heat, you know, let's make it cooperative. So we really focused on co-creation. And we worked with Brian Rill, who was the professor at the Hong Kong Polytechnic, who's head of their co-creation department. And so we did a lot of programs with them. We've done about almost 27 Brains on the Beach now, with universities, with nonprofit organizations, where we'll bring consultants in to nonprofits and help them. We did that in Laos and Thailand. And then recently we had Half Baked Bob on Painkiller Island, where we had 15 people who all brought an idea or an issue, something they're working on that they think there's something here. I just don't know how to really, you know, polish it into something real. It's a half-baked idea. And we all got together and shared what those were, and then spent 3 days just helping each other on each other's ideas. on this wonderful, beautiful, private island that we were the only the only people in, other than there were 15 of us and 20 staff, you know.
It's true.
And it was and the name of the island was Pankil, and so we call it Painkiller. And we went there with a more rigorous process. We had certain ideas that we were going to do this at this time, this at this time, but basically the island took over. And once we got on the island, massages became more important than messages.
That's a good line. I like that.
It really was.
It's
And
true.
we all went on island time. We said let's start at 9, and at 10:30 it seemed like we had enough people there to do something. And even last night I was with one of the participants, Jason from the Bridge Group, and he was saying how that has really shifted his own belief about the use of time in a program. And he's always been, in his words, I'm a time Nazi. I'm very, very time oriented, process oriented.
Yeah.
And this next week he's doing a program where he's actually using open space technology, which I introduced him to when we were there. And he's like, I'm going to let the breaks be more important than the process, because he realized there's so much good stuff that can happen when your brain's on the beach, as opposed to when your brain's at work. And so, yeah, it was for me, I found it relaxing, invigorating, but also very meaningful in making relationships. And we're already planning 2018. We'll be on a beach again. So I think this will be, I'd like to make this an annual of the brains on the beach. We'll still do the ones with universities. We'll still do the ones with nonprofits, but I think just going to the beach with colleagues is a big part of my personal and professional development, and developing in TAM too.
And it is phenomenal. And if you, at the end of this video, you should definitely look at one of the projects that we created, the Painkiller. All 15 consultants all have this video that we created, a 2-minute spot to just really tell people you can solve unsolvable problems here on Painkiller. And we'll guide you through that process. And we're just trying to see who's going to bring somebody back first. And so, yeah, what's one of your special moments that you remember from this year's Brains on the Beach?
Actually, I think one of my special moments was when we did the very first drone, and we were all out there, and and the drones, you can't even see it; it flies away. And it's like, okay, that's cool. We're all waving, and the feeling of doing that was one thing. But then later when we actually watched the video and you saw this really dramatic pull out, and you realize, wow, from that beach to this part of the island to the whole island, and that sense of, wow, we're here, and it's just us. And this island is just, it's here for us to share the space with each other. So I think seeing that scope and scale of the island and getting from a different perspective, yeah, I really enjoyed that. Oh, wow.
And it's that piece of footage that drives people the most when I've shown these 2 minutes. There's a lot of great stuff in that 2 minutes, but that and the dinner location. Yeah. So it zooms into the dinner location, but then you see people together, and that is so important to people going, wow, what problems could you solve if you had dinner in this great location with people that you genuinely cared about?
Yeah. I mean, like I said in the video, if you got your brain to the beach, would you would you be able to find a better way of thinking? And we'd say, yeah, and you don't always have to go to the beach. And so what we've been working on is what are the processes and what are the guidelines that we can use anywhere that gets your brain to the beach. And it's been a great journey. So it's a nonprofit organization that myself and James Bishop and Glenn, a guy from Australia, have all put together, and it's I think it's my wife always says this is just your way of giving back. Right. And so it is, and giving back I receive.
Well, it's a fantastic project. If you ever get the invite or the opportunity, definitely go. I will most likely be at the next one, barring crazy schedules. But all right, well, the last question of the day then is if somebody was thinking about coming to one of your programs or working with Integrate, but they're like, nah, Jimbo, I don't know, or I don't have the time, I don't have the money or whatever, what would you tell them?
You're right. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you don't have the time or you don't have the money or it doesn't sound, I don't know. This may sound really terrible, but I think you got to follow the resonance and I don't actually I don't do any business development. I don't have a name list. I think people will find each other, and I was just talking to a couple other colleagues of mine recently about this, about firing clients. Yeah. And there are times where if in the contracting process that you can't build up enough trust for them to be relaxed around what the event and what's going to happen, how we're going to drive it, then all you can do is say let's finish this one and see how it goes, or no hard feelings. But yeah, maybe that's a really flippant answer.
Well, good. I'll give you one other last question then too. If you could leave people with one other kind of guidance or inspiring words based on now your experience in this company, and what would you want to share with them?
Wow. This is probably very flippant, but the first thing that came to my mind is marry well. I'm married. But, my wife is so entirely supportive. Every time I get to a point in the business where I think I need to run away, I'm not making the money that I thought I was going to make. This is back in like 2009, 2010. My wife would always just say the same thing, which was, if you're done with this dream and you have a new thing that you want to do, that's great. But I don't want you to be old and say that you gave up on your dreams because you were afraid or that you sacrificed your future for your family. And I think there's a real wisdom to that around having a level of clarity on what's important to me and what I really want to do, and then making that happen. And then I guess the other thing is, I need to not judge my process. My manner in which I get to my dreams is entirely mine. Mm-hmm. And there are times when I think, like I'm writing this book, it's taking 3 years and I'm still working on it. But then I also tell myself, well, yeah, but the parts that I've written in the last 2 months are gold. And so instead of being judgmental and saying I'm not doing it the way I should or could, or why not say, hey, I'm living out of my passion and I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and I'm finding better ways of doing things. And, so that this turning off the judgment, internal judgment, I think turning off guilt, turning off judgment, for me, I think that would be the thing that is key and essential to me.
See, within suffering too, and what you don't know about my book is that I tell people too, it took me a decade to write, and I failed 4 times in the process. And then when it came out, it like finished itself. I asked for 6 and it took me 5 to finish it. And so when it's right, it'll go. Yeah. It'll so go.
And I think it's getting right. So hopefully 2018 will be the year.
And then you find out how short attention span the world is, and you got to plan the next book 2 years later. But anyways, we'll talk about that later. All right. Well, Jimbo, thank you so much for sharing, a little bit about you and the process. And it's been really fun to get to know you over the years. And really, the best feeling I had today was getting off the MTR, which is their light rail system here, and knowing how to get to Jim's house and being welcomed here. Those things to me are true gold.
You're always welcome, except for tonight.
And that means I have to go. All right. Well, we'll see you not in Jimbo Town. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye-bye.